four of these people live in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. All four of the people live in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And the Florida Department of Health believes that active transmissions of this virus could be occurring in one small area, Miami-Dade County, and it's just north of downtown. This area is about 1 square mile, and Dr. Phillip will give the exact location a little bit later. One of these 4 cases involves a woman, and the other 3 cases involve men. They are all active Zika cases and have not exhibited symptoms to be admitted to the hospital. Again, all these cases are located in South Florida. Here in Orange County and Central Florida, there are no active investigations into local transmissions. Testing of mosquitoes in this area has been happening in this area where the small area for about 2 weeks. While no mosquito traps have tested positive for the Zika virus, the Department of Health is aggressively testing people in the affected area to ensure there are no other cases of this virus. So as we've tested the mosquitoes, we've not found any mosquitoes that we've tested through the traps that have the Zika virus. The Department of Health will share more details on testing results as they become available. If you live in the impacted area and want to be tested, I urge you to contact the County Health Department, which stands ready to assist you. The Surgeon General, Celeste Phillip, is here, and she can give you more information. Florida currently has the capacity to test 6,609 people for active Zika virus and 2,059 people for Zika antibodies. In total, we have tested 2,329 people across the state. If we need more test kits, we will immediately request them from the CDC. Since our first travel-related case in February, Florida has taken an aggressive approach and committed state and local resources to combat this virus. At the beginning of February, I directed the Department of Health to issue a declaration of public health emergency for the counties of residents with travel-associated cases of Zika. This list of counties has grown as new cases are announced. There are now 29 counties included in this declaration. Dr. Phillip and I have hosted multiple conference calls with Florida mosquito control districts across the state to discuss their ongoing preparations and ensure they have all the resources they need to fight the spread of the virus. I have met with federal leaders in Washington, D.C. and have spoken with HHS Secretary Sylvia Burwell and CDC Director Dr. Tom Friedman to request more resources for our state. And the Surgeon General has participated in tabletop exercises and a variety of things, and done other things. I have also written to President Barack Obama to request preparedness for state. I use my emergency executive authority to allocate $26.2 million in state funds for Zika preparedness, prevention, and response in Florida. Following the confirmation of the first confirmed case of microcephaly in an infant born in Florida, I called on the CDC to host a call with Florida medical professionals, and that mother did not contract Zika in this state, or even in this country. So we called on the CDC to host a call with Florida medical professionals, including OBGYNs and physicians specialized in family medicine, to discuss the neurological impacts of Zika and what precautions new and expecting mothers should take. This is in addition to an initial call I asked the CDC to conduct in February, which they quickly held. We've reached out to airport and port directors to ensure they have the resources they need, and also hosted Zika preparedness roundtables across multiple Florida counties. I will continue to be in constant communication with state and local leaders. As of now, 28 counties have received funding to combat Zika, and the Department of Health has continued to work with counties to make sure they have the resources they need. Now that Florida has become the first state to have a local transmission, likely through a mosquito, we will continue to put every resource available to fighting the spread of Zika in our state. If it becomes clear more resources are needed, we will not hesitate. Following today's news, I am directing the Department of Health to immediately begin contracting with commercial pest control companies to increase spraying and mosquito abatement efforts in the impacted area. We began spraying back in February. We're also doing the following: providing $620,000 to One Blood, the primary food bank in the area, in the impacted area, to establish appropriate blood screening, will be working with the FDA and blood establishments in Miami-Dade and Broward counties to test each individual unit of blood collected. Additionally, statewide, we will ensure safe blood for pregnant women by screening units from counties without Zika. Continue investigations with the CDC to ensure we learn all we can about Zika as an emerging disease. We're going to continue coordinating with OBGYNs and organizations that serve pregnant women in the impacted zip code for the distribution of Zika prevention kits to pregnant women. We're going to continue ongoing door-to-door outreach in the impacted area or the area of concern with continued mosquito mitigation activities and repellent distribution. The Department of Health will partner with Visit Florida to distribute educational materials, repellent and Zika protection kits, prevention kits for pregnant women to visitor centers in the impacted areas. The Department will also partner with the Florida Department of Education to ensure that mosquito breeding, source reduction, and mitigation activities have occurred at all schools in Miami-Dade and Broward counties ahead of children returning to classes this fall. What should you do? We know this virus is most detrimental to expecting mothers. If you're pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant, I urge you to contact your OBGYN for guidance. If you live in Miami-Dade or Broward counties, you can receive a Zika prevention kit by contacting your OBGYN. I ask every Floridian to take proper precautions by eliminating any standing water. So just a small little thing of standing water, get rid of it all around your house or your business, and wear insect repellent. We know from our experience successfully dealing with other mosquito-borne viruses in our state that through constant surveillance and immediate action that we will protect our families and visitors. As a result of very successful mosquito control, in 2015, we had only one locally transmitted case of dengue fever and only one locally transmitted case this year. Because of our efforts to aggressively combat it, we have had no other cases. We have also been very successful at combating chikungunya. In 2014, we went from 12 locally transmitted cases to 0 locally transmitted cases in 2015 and 0 this year. We will continue the same approach with the Zika virus in our state. Florida is an outdoor state with pristine beaches, award-winning state parks, and world-class fishing. We continue to welcome record visitors to Florida, and we will continue to remind everyone in our state to take proper precautions. Today, I will host another Zika virus roundtable discussion with local leaders here in Orange County, where again, we have had no locally transmitted cases, to hear what they are doing to fight this virus and make sure we're all continuing to work together to protect our state. We will continue to travel the state and meet with counties to ensure they have what they need to protect families and our visitors. So here are the key messages. 4 locally transmitted cases, likely through the mosquito bite. No mosquitoes have tested positive for Zika. The Department of Health is testing individuals in this small impacted area. And again, it's a small area just north of downtown Miami. The state is prepared, and we've been prepared. We think about this just like we do a hurricane. The way you do well at this is you get ready. We use the same techniques that we use for other mosquito-borne diseases, and we've been very successful at that. We're a tourism state. We continue to welcome families here, but we'll continue to tell people to stay prepared and wear mosquito spray. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Celeste Phillips.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. In Florida, we've been preparing for Zika for many months, since the governor signed the executive order back in February. We expected that we were likely to be one of the first states, if not the first, which we have proven, to identify local transmission of Zika. The area that the governor alluded to where local transmission has been identified is about a 1-mile area in North Miami with the following boundaries. And we will have maps with the area demarcated. Northwest 5th Avenue in the west, US 1 to the east, Northwest Northeast 38th Street to the north, and Northwest Northeast 20th Street to the south. We are a diverse state with many residents who have traveled to other countries impacted by Zika. And Aedes mosquitoes thrive in our state. As the governor has outlined, we've seen many types of mosquito-borne viruses such as dengue and chikungunya imported to our state, and we've been successful in limiting local transmission to small numbers. By working closely with our astute clinicians in communities who identify symptoms and alert county health departments to diagnose these conditions, we then partner with the local mosquito control district to immediately assess the area and begin mitigation activities, such as getting rid of standing water and appropriate treatment to rid areas of mosquitoes. We've used this model, which has been recognized as a best practice for many years, and we will continue to do so. We hope to mirror the successes we've seen with other mosquito-borne illnesses, and we believe that at this time, the likelihood of ongoing transmission is low. But what is different with Zika compared to these other similar kinds of viruses is the devastating impacts on developing fetuses that sometimes result in microcephaly. It is everyone's responsibility to protect pregnant women and their growing babies. If we can keep low the total number of people who are infected in our state, we decrease the chances of pregnant women becoming infected by mosquitoes within our state. This is why we encourage each resident to use repellent on skin and clothing, drain standing water, and cover outdoor receptacles that hold water. For women who are pregnant, we understand that you are concerned about Zika. We are in regular communication with prenatal providers, including the American Congress of OBGYNs, and we've equipped local doctors' offices with the Zika prevention kits. We are here to support you and your family, and as we learn more about the virus, we will share that information and make changes to our actions as appropriate. I want to thank the governor for his leadership and ongoing support, and also Dr. Tom Frieden, CDC Director, Dr. Mark Fisher, a medical epidemiologist from CDC, who is here in Florida assisting with our data and sample collection. I'd also like to thank our colleagues at FDA for their ongoing technical assistance regarding the safety of our blood supply. Thank you.
Now we'll turn it over to Commissioner of Agriculture Adam Putnam.
Thank you, Governor. As Commissioner of Agriculture, we play a supporting role to the Department of Health in responding to this outbreak. We have historically been partners with our local mosquito control districts throughout the state of Florida. Florida has a long history of mosquito control programs, for obvious reasons, being in the state of Florida. So we have a very sophisticated, mature control, surveillance, and response program throughout the local governments. We have 59 mosquito control programs around the state. We have 10 counties which are open programs, and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services works with those counties. Our role in terms of surveillance and response on the mosquito control piece of this is to partner with those local programs. And the folks on the ground in the counties, our public health officials and our mosquito control professionals are doing an outstanding job. From the standpoint of where we are today, we initiated the purchase in late winter of over 300 traps that are now distributed throughout the state that collect not only mosquitoes, but the specific species of mosquitoes known to carry the Zika virus. Our laboratory here in Florida has tested 19,000 mosquitoes in 1,100 groupings. To date, there have been no positive mosquito tests that have revealed the presence of Zika in that mosquito population. We will continue to aggressively test in partnership with our local mosquito control programs. We also, in the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, have task forces which are ready to deploy and provide additional support to those local programs. Those will be boots on the ground in the impacted areas with backpack sprayers, doing surveillance, eliminating habitat of these mosquitoes. The mosquitoes that we're dealing with in terms of the Zika virus are not the dusk, sundown type of mosquitoes that people are typically most familiar with. These are mosquitoes that tend to prefer urban areas over wetlands, and they tend to be more active during the day. and they have a very short flight path. They don't travel great distances at all. What that means is that the most effective partner in eliminating the vector of Zika are homeowners and renters and business people. Eliminating that habitat, the tarp that's covering your boat that's collected rainwater for the last week, drain it. Make sure that the window screens are in place and intact. Eliminate all standing water, from the dripping air conditioner to the pet bowl to the bird bath. All of these things can eliminate the habitat that these mosquitoes thrive on, and we can continue to successfully eliminate this threat in our state. We continue to be aggressive in dealing with this, and have issued a mosquito declaration that makes possible these additional resources and the task forces to provide support to the locals. There will be aggressive response within 200 yards of the impacted properties, and then various radiuses beyond that, including aerial liquid larvicide, which we know has an impact on these species of mosquitoes. So these are the things that that the public can do to help us by eliminating that habitat. The infrastructure that's in place in the state of Florida, because of our long history of dealing with mosquitoes, is second to none. As the governor has alluded, we have contained incidents of dengue and chikungunya in the past very successfully, and are putting the right pieces in place because of the preparation, because of the investment of time, resources, and training that has taken place, training of the private pest control companies that we engaged in April, because of the training and collaboration with the local mosquito control programs, and because of the aggressive laboratory testing. We are doing all of the things that are necessary to eliminate this threat as quickly as possible. Thank you.
We can take any questions anybody has.
Governor Scott, if no mosquitoes have tested positive, why are you all confident that it was transmitted by mosquitoes?
Sure.
It's common with mosquito-borne illnesses that you will never find a mosquito that tests positive for that virus. So we're not surprised by those findings. Obviously, if we found mosquitoes that were positive, that would tell us a lot and be confirmatory. But we don't depend on that. It's a conclusion that's built on collecting lots of information from people who are close contacts to the folks that we've diagnosed, and doing surveillance in the area. So we don't depend on a positive mosquito test to confirm.
Is it just a process of elimination? You couldn't find any other possibility, and that's why it's mosquitoes?
That is part of the assessment, is that we look at all the modes of transmission, and when you are able to rule out the others, even though, again, you may not find a positive mosquito, that is the most likely mode of transmission.
So you have ruled out all other possible forms of transmission, and that's why you're saying it's likely by mosquito?
That is correct.
And go ahead. But on top of that, we are we've taken this area and we're being very aggressive at testing people there. We're testing the mosquitoes there, and we're spraying to make sure that it's contained.
What's being done from the Department of Health in terms of cultural competence when it comes to Zika prevention? Are materials being translated into Spanish and Creole?
We have materials in English, Spanish, Creole, and Portuguese. We are very sensitive that the messaging, depending on where someone has grown up, what their understanding is of mosquitoes, that it requires for us to take into consideration those differences. So we are working very hard with our health department staff who are in those counties that know their communities to make sure that the material is appropriate.
But on top of that, information is going out from our Department of Health, our county health departments, and it's going out in a variety of ways through. But on top of that, it's in our airports, it's in our ports, it's in our cruise ships. I mean, we've done roundtables around the state. Dr. Phillip and I have, and every county is figuring out in their county how to get information out.
Governor, Congress went to recess without approving almost $2 billion for
Right.
this kind of emergencies. So now, how we're gonna do to receive this money, the president maybe can do something here to receive
Sure.
this money?
So, well, first off, it's disappointing. I went to Washington and met with members of Congress to talk about the funding, and I've talked to the White House, talked to HHS Secretary. So Congress didn't fund, and they went on recess. That's disappointing. Last week, the president called me on Wednesday, and he said that they were going to send $5.6 million down to us, which is a start. I would expect that HHS can do more to help us, and that's why I've said all along. I would expect that Congress can do more to help us. I've said that all along. The things that we have gotten help, we get the testing kits from the CDC, and every time we've asked for this testing kits, we have gotten them. So we have plenty of testing kits right now, but it depends on how many people we need to test. But we do need, the federal government needs to do their part. This is not just a Florida issue. This is a U.S. issue. It's a national issue. We're just at the front of it.
This issue of habitat destruction, we've been spreading the message over and over and over about dumping water out of, whether it's a tarp or a pet bowl or a bird bath. But we know that people have very busy lives, and often, there are places that get rain with some frequency. How important is it for people to do that routine daily if there has been rain the day before?
So you should do it. The best is to do it every day. What you're trying to do is stop the cycle of the larvae ever hatching. So you should do it every day. And where there's like this impacted area, the Department of Health and the mosquito boards, they're going in and helping homeowners do it also. But you should do it yourself. If we all can wear repellent, get rid of the standing water. If you have concern, wear bug repellent clothes, things like that. Wear long sleeves. Of course, all the mosquitoes love me. I'm O positive and they love me.
But really, mosquitoes can breed that rapidly. That it's a daily.
It's
that's what I'm trying to
it's
stress.
for
It's not something you do once a week.
no, yeah, it's a very short cycle. Go ahead.
I'm sure there's some pregnant women who live in North Miami who are very anxious right now. Are they safe? Are their unborn babies safe to continue living there right now while you guys
Sure.
continue to investigate?
We understand that pregnant women will be very concerned, and that's why we have been working closely with the providers in that area to provide the Zika prevention kits to make sure that pregnant women know how to decrease their risk by wearing repellent and some of the steps that we've outlined. At this time, with the number of cases that we've seen, we don't believe that there's an increased risk, but with Zika, we always want to do what we can to protect against mosquito bites if you're pregnant.
Should they move temporarily?
At this point, the recommendation is to protect themselves with the repellent and with the other steps that we've talked about, drain and cover. We don't believe that there will be ongoing transmission, but we are certainly watching that and are working with providers in the area to make sure that people who ask to be tested, who come in with symptoms, are tested over the next few weeks in particular so that we can be assured that there is no more ongoing transmission.
I
The
understand
number
that
of
most of
testings
the
that we have
transmissions,
currently, how long will the group of testings that Florida currently has, how long will that last and how before the funding is getting more? Will those run out quickly now that we have people being tested in this area?
We test people every day, and as we use the different reagents and kits to run the tests, we replenish them immediately. So we've been at these levels pretty stable for several months, and we will continue at that pace.
But we will ask to go back on the test kits. We'll ask for more if we need them. So if there's a significant increase, we're going to stay ahead of the game, and we make sure they're around the state where they need to be. So clearly, we'll have more down in Broward and Miami-Dade now than if in an area that's not impacted at all. Go ahead.
I understand
Go ahead.
most of the transmission are inside of the house, according to another countries, Brazil, and another countries, Central America. Some of them are inside of the house. What are you going to do?
So you do the same thing. You don't have standing water. The biggest thing is, you're right, they're in the house, they're outside, they're around your house. Like the commissioner said, they don't go very far, and they're not aggressive flyers, is my understanding. But you got to do this inside your house and outside your house.
Why Why are you so confident there will not be ongoing transmission? Why are you so confident about that?
We are working very intensely in the area with the mosquito control partners to daily assess the areas to look for any additional potential breeding sites for mosquitoes. This is, as we've described, I think all three of us have described, the model that we've used in the past where we've seen that there have only been a few cases of local transmission. So we will remain diligent in those efforts and go back every day, go door to door to make sure people are aware of what they can do to protect themselves, and we will continue that until we see this through.
Hang on a second. And with all, there are significant differences in the residential neighborhoods between Florida and some of the other impacted countries. The overwhelming number of air conditioners, well-sealed houses and screens and everything else. Let's be very clear about that. With all that, the opportunity for habitat in Florida, while Florida is a warm, wet, subtropical climate, is very different than the nations that have seen much, much higher incidence of the Zika spread, largely because of higher standards of living in the state of Florida. So that's, when you look at well-tended lawns, the presence of air conditioning, screens that are present on the vast majority of homes, widespread acceptance of repellent. If you have waste tires in your backyard, you need to get rid of them, and we can help you do that. If there is a neighbor down the street who is a shut-in and needs help mowing the lawn or eliminating trash, there are ways to help that person. But that is not a widespread circumstance in the state of Florida. So there is no comparison.
And the other thing we did, remember what we put out about Dungay? Excuse me a second.
Does that concern you? Because
Excuse
that's
me.
part of the Overtown, Wynwood area. It is transition. Does it concern you that that is an economically poor area in which that 1 mile radius concerns
So
Miami?
we have, first off, we've done very well with dengue fever. We've done very well with chikungunya because we have our county health departments, our state health department, our Department of Agriculture, and especially our mosquito boards have done this for a long time, and they've been very good. We have the resources, and we're putting the resources in, and we'll continue to commit the resources to when we find an area that we think might be impacted, we will be there. We will be there to help get rid of the standing water. We'll be there to spray with hand sprayers, and we'll be very aggressive at making sure this doesn't spread.
Governor, can we talk about symptoms? Because after this news, maybe people are gonna just run or rush to the ER for symptoms that are not related with Zika. So when is the right time and when you need to go to the ER or the health department?
Now that we are in this situation where we have seen that there's been limited local transmission, we are sharing that information with our providers that treat people that live and work around those areas to be aware that we want to have a lower threshold to test for Zika if someone comes in with the symptoms that are consistent and doesn't have travel history, because we want to be aware of what is going on. So we likely will test more individuals, and if they have symptoms in particular, we want to make sure that we can help reassure them if they're negative, or if they are positive, that we can then begin the activities that we've outlined to find out where those mosquitoes may be and for us to address that issue.
What symptoms?
The symptoms are fever, muscle aches, a rash, and conjunctivitis or red eyes.
Governor,
We have time for one more.
If you run out of money to fight Zika?
I have the authority in an emergency like this to allocate dollars, and so that's how I did the 26.2. If we need to do more, we'll do more.
Thanks,
So,
everyone.
all right.
Was that just today you allocated that?
No, we did that back 6 weeks ago, I think.
Why was Florida reluctant to bring CDC down here to help investigate local transmission?
We've always invited everybody down to help us. Thanks, everybody.